Picture yourself at home on an ordinary holiday evening. Your family is nearby. The city outside is moving at the slow rhythm of a day off. Nothing feels unusual. And then, without warning, the floor beneath your feet begins to move. At first, your mind tries to explain it away. A tremor, a few seconds of shaking. The kind of thing that passes before fear can fully arrive. But this time, it does not pass. The walls begin to sway. Windows rattle, concrete groans. Somewhere deep beneath the city, a fault that has been locked for generations suddenly tears open. And then, before the first earthquake has even finished moving through the ground, the earth strikes again. 39 seconds later, from nearly the same region, with even greater force, on the evening of June 24th, 2026, local time, two powerful earthquakes struck northern Venezuela. The first was reported at approximately magnitude 7.2, at a depth of roughly 20 kilometers. Just 39 seconds later, a larger magnitude 7.5 earthquake followed nearby, at a shallower depth of about 10 kilometers. For people in Venezuela, this happened on the evening of June 24th. That timing matters, because June 24th is a national holiday in Venezuela, commemorating the Battle of Carabobo. Many people were at home when the shaking began. The two earthquakes were so close together in time and location that experts describe the sequence as a rare seismic doublet, a pair of major earthquakes where one rupture may rapidly transfer stress to another fault segment before the ground motion has even stopped. And because earthquake magnitude is logarithmic, the second event was not just a little stronger. A magnitude 7.5 releases almost 3 times more energy than a magnitude 7.2, and roughly 180 times more energy than a magnitude 6.0 earthquake. USGS impact models warned that severe damage and high casualties were possible. Early reports counted at least 188 people killed and more than 1,500 injured, with rescue operations still unfolding and the final toll uncertain. To understand why this happened, you have to look beneath northern Venezuela. This region sits near the boundary where the Caribbean plate and the South American plate interact. But this is not a simple collision zone. Here, the plates mostly slide past one another sideways, a motion geologists call strike slip or transform faulting. Over decades, centuries, and even millions of years, that sideways movement loads stress into fault systems across northern Venezuela. Most of the time, the faults appear silent. Cities grow above them. Roads cross them. High-rises are built near them. But the stress is still there. And when a locked fault segment finally gives way, the stored energy is released in seconds. The earthquake explains what happened underground. But the destruction above ground depends on something else. Where people live, what the city is built on, and how strong the buildings are. Caracas is not just a city beside mountains. It sits in a valley with layers of softer soil and sediment in parts of the basin. When seismic waves travel from hard bedrock into softer ground, they can slow down, stretch out, and grow stronger. This is called site amplification. It is the same basic physics that made the 1985 Mexico City earthquake so devastating, even though that earthquake's epicenter was far away from the city. Soft ground can turn strong shaking into something worse. It can make the motion last longer. It can amplify the waves, and it can punish buildings that were never designed for that kind of horizontal force. That is where the human-made disaster begins. Many buildings in Venezuela were already vulnerable before the ground moved. older reinforced concrete structures, aging residential towers, informal construction, and buildings affected by years of poor maintenance. An earthquake does not need every building to be weak. It only needs enough of them to be vulnerable in the wrong place, at the wrong time. And Venezuela entered this disaster with major social and infrastructure challenges already in place. Hospitals under pressure, emergency systems stretched thin, power and communications unstable in some areas, and many communities with limited resources to respond. So when the doublet hit, the disaster was not only geological. It was geological stress meeting urban vulnerability. In parts of Caracas and nearby coastal areas, buildings collapsed. Streets filled with dust. People ran outside in panic. Families searched for missing relatives while aftershocks continued to threaten damaged structures. The first earthquake shook the city. The second one tested everything that was still standing. For survivors, the most frightening part was not just the shaking, it was the confusion. People had no time to understand whether the first earthquake was ending or whether something worse was beginning. Some described the motion as impossible to measure in time. Seconds stretched into something much longer. Others fled down stairwells while buildings were still moving around them. In high-rise apartments, families tried to reach exits. In hospitals, patients and staff had to respond, while the floor itself was unstable. In damaged neighborhoods, people slept outside or in cars, afraid that the next aftershock could bring down structures already weakened by the first two shocks. After a major earthquake, the danger does not end when the shaking stops. Damaged buildings remain dangerous. Aftershocks can trigger new collapses. Roads, bridges, hospitals, power lines, and water systems can fail after the main event, not only during it. That is why the hours and days after a disaster like this are critical. Rescue teams are not only searching for survivors, they are working inside a city where the ground may still be moving, and where every cracked wall, every tilted column, and every damaged stairwell can become a second disaster. And Venezuela is not alone in this risk. Many major cities around the world sit near active faults, on soft sedimentary basins, or beside coastlines and mountains that can turn shaking into landslides, liquefaction, or structural failure. Mexico City, Istanbul, Los Angeles, Tehran, Caracas. Each city is different, each fault system is different, but the lesson is the same. Earthquakes are natural, disasters are not. Disasters are what happen when geology meets buildings, politics, poverty, planning failures, and time. What happened in Venezuela was not caused by one factor. It was ancient plate motion. It was shallow fault rupture. It was a rare doublet arriving only 39 seconds apart. It was vulnerable buildings. It was a holiday evening when families were home. And it was a country already carrying the weight of years of crisis before the ground began to move. The earth beneath every city carries a history: faults, sediments, stress, silence, and then, one day, motion. The only question is whether the world above is ready for what the world below has been storing.